Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and firstly, can I pay tribute to the clerks, the staff and fellow members of the Work and Pension Select Committee and the Right Honourable Gentleman, the Member for East Ham, for the work that he undertook on this report. It was an interesting inquiry to be involved with, and as I'm sure he will agree, I think we heard a wide range of evidence as to the government's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this report recognises, quite frankly, the unprecedented and difficult circumstances that our social security system has found itself in, and the people that rely on it, most of whom that found themselves having to rely on our social security system for the first time as a result of this crisis. We've heard stories of how people who never expected to have to rely on social security have found themselves now being absolutely depending upon it. And we've also shown what we've also heard, and what's also been shown is perhaps some of the operational challenges that the department has taken. But I've been very heartened, Mr Deputy Speaker, by my honourable friend, the Minister's listening mood and approach on some of these. So I want to concentrate my comments really today on sort of three things that I pulled out from the report, and I certainly don't wish to step on or repeat any of the comments that honourable and right honourable members have made so far. But for me, a number of elements stuck out. So firstly, the operational challenges that the department has faced during this period. The support for the self-employed as well, and the impact that has had, and nowhere more so than my constituency. And finally, actually, how we ensure that those people that cannot work, that have to go to work during COVID, how they actually have support from the agencies that are meant to make sure that they remain safe. So firstly, can I actually begin by thanking the DWP staff who have been absolutely phenomenal during this period, and I'm sure we can all agree the way in which they have had to step up, many of whom have had to be seconded into roles they've had no experience of before, who have got on with it, who have worked hard, who have made sure that people who need access to those benefits get those benefits and get the entitlements they need. And we've heard stories that, within the report about how people have not just got access to those benefits but actually felt supported by those staff, who have felt that they actually have that support, they're being listened to and they're being treated as individuals. But in looking at some of the operational notes, one of the things that did stick out was the verification and ID process. And we did hear that in terms of some of the comments around that some of the issues with the process was that people felt it sometimes got quite complex and complicated. Now, I absolutely support the need for digitisation of our benefit system. That is absolutely right and absolutely the case. We need to ensure that we have a streamlined system that enables a quick processing of people's applications for benefits. But what I would say, and certainly in a constituency like mine, where I represent wards with some highest levels of deprivation, the digital divide is real, and many people do not have access to the digital services, whether that's internet, whether that's IT equipment. But I have been very impressed by the way in which the job centres have engaged with those people pre-pandemic and actually post-pandemic. But what I would say is this is a cross-government project. We've got to ensure that we plug that digital divide, and I've said this repeatedly and I will keep on saying it. We have got to ensure that people can access our services irrespective of where they are, irrespective of their background, irrespective of where they're coming from. And I am very heartened by the discussions I've had with my honourable friend, the Minister, about this, and with other ministers in the government, to ensure that we do address this issue, and I know this is recognised. I also want to turn my comments, as I say, Mr Deputy Speaker, more towards the self-employed, and the fact is, as I've said at the beginning of my remarks, many people found themselves requiring support for the first time they never thought they'd need. And as the report does, I welcome the temporary suspension of the minimum income floor. It was a welcome indication from the government that obviously there had been problems caused by the self-employed, particularly for those that have quite volatile monthly incomes. I also totally agree with the report where it talks about communication and the need to communicate with people to how to navigate the system. Quite often with people that are self-employed, it has proven to be difficult for them to know what benefits they're entitled to and to ensure that actually they get the support that they need. So I welcome the department's openness and my honourable friend's openness to ensure that when it comes to the self-employed, they do actually get the support that they need. I would just touch on the point around the £16,000 saving limit, and I know it's a point that my honourable friend has recognised. We do just need to be acutely aware on this point that many people put savings away to pay their tax liabilities, to pay all the things that they need. And I know the department's heard this, and I've been really, really reassured by the conversations I've had with ministers around this point, is that just to be mindful that it's not always the case that people are burrowing away that money because they're quote unquote well off, but actually it's to pay off liabilities that ultimately mean then that they don't have that cash accessible. Finally, Mr Deputy Speaker, because I'm conscious that other colleagues want to get in, just in terms of those people that have gone out to work during this pandemic, many of my constituents cannot work from home because they work in manufacturing, they work in food processing, they work as key workers. So when we looked at the evidence from the HSE, clearly there's clearly work to do there. You know, the TUC, for example, have had 1,000 contacts from workers concerned about unsafe working. The HSE itself has received about 6,000 concerns regarding social distancing. And it is often those workers that are classed as, and I hate this expression, Mr Deputy Speaker, but low skilled, that have the highest risk and the highest death rates as a result of COVID-19. So it's really important that we ensure that the HSE is empowered to undertake those spot checks, and also that we have that cross approach to communication with the HSE, with employers, and yes, with trade unions too, to ensure that we have a cross-stakeholder approach to keep our key workers safe, to make sure they can go out, to make sure that those people in those jobs can continue providing those vital services. So to conclude my comments, Mr Deputy Speaker, I commend the government for the unprecedented effort it's put in. Let's not forget that at all. I commend my honourable friend, the Minister, for the listing mood he's taken, because the fact is it's been an unprecedented time. He has accepted the challenges that are there and the openness to solve them. But I must say this, you know, I cannot commend highly the work of those DWP staff ultimately, and the fact that they've come out to ensure that our most vulnerable are supported. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Everybody for showing.